Hi now. So now we can do a we can do a proper introduction. Thank you so much for joining us on the Loeries Creative Hour. So first, let me start by also welcoming all of our attendees as well. We have a fully booked out Loeries Creative Hour today with Neo Mashigo, and really appreciate all of you for joining and spending time. And I can see that there are more people joining as we go along. I think one of the key things, just to remind everyone, if you're joining for the first time, one of the reasons that we've actually started the Loeries Creative Hour is because we're in an interesting time right now. In this environment of COVID-19, it's been really tough for us as a community to stay together and work together and ensure that we're able to collaborate in a good, strong way. So that's what the Loeries Creative Hour helps ensure. It helps ensure that we can have some best thinking, get a better feel and insights from some of the leaders in our industry as well. And also for me personally, it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure now, because it allows me to chat to you, because in these 2 months that I've been at the Loeries, I haven't had a chance to chat down to anyone. So this is fascinating. This is going to be a really great chat. So important thing is Loeries entries are still open. They close on the 15th of June. So if you're watching from across Africa and the Middle East, and we've seen the attendee list, we've got attendees from across the region, please remember to get your entries in at www.loeries.com. Fantastic. Also for today, if you'd like to use any of our social media tags, you can use hashtag Loeries Creative Hour. And for this year, we've been pushing hashtag Create Change and hashtag Beyond COVID. So if you're sharing anything on social media, please use that as well. So I want to give a little bit of introduction to Neo. So got a little thing here. So Neo Mashigo is passionate about African creativity and producing advertising work that is more representative of Africa. He's the former chairperson and current board member of the Loeries Awards. He's also chairperson of the Creative Circle. Before joining M&C Saatchi Group, Neo was executive creative director at two of South Africa's largest creative advertising agencies, Ogilvy and Mather Johannesburg and FCB Johannesburg. With Neo at the helm, he was instrumental in leading both these agencies to the top spots in creative rankings tables. Neo is also the co-founder of I See a Different You, a collective of Soweto-born creatives who sought out to change the world's view of Africa. Neo has also won several local and international awards, including Grand Prix at Cannes Festival of Creativity, and obviously at the Loeries Awards. Neo, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I've been bugging you for so long to join, so this is fantastic. It's amazing to have you on. And thank you for, I know you've been busy and there's so many meetings and all of this. So again, thank you for joining us and to chat to everyone who's joining us today.
Eventually, Preetesh, I agreed to the worst day ever. Like this, I think it's been my busiest day since the whole of COVID-19. So yeah, and my schedule has been moving around, jumping around. So yeah.
And we're not helping a lot in that as well. So, you know, I appreciate it so much. And I know, I think judging from all the chats that we've had to try and get you into Loeries Creative Hour, I think you've, like, every day seems to have been your busiest day. I know it's been really busy. I mean, how are you coping? Because it's interesting. A lot of people have thought that COVID-19 would be a dip in our industry, a dip in terms of creativity, but it seems like people are busier now more than ever.
I think it's managed to double the workload, and not in the sense that there is more work to be done, but it's like all the work that we are doing, you have to do like 3 versions of the same thing, because like things keep on changing on a daily basis, and you have to respond to that, you know. So also I think in figuring out how to work online and run businesses and teams on Zoom calls and Teams, you know. So I think that's where the workload has added up. Like we were sitting yesterday with one of the ECDs trying to figure out like what happened to our time. It seems like there is no gap in the meetings. You're hopping from one meeting into the next, and no gaps at all. And like we're wondering how we used to find the time and the gaps to attend meetings at clients' offices. Like now it's like everything is back to back. But I think when you're in advertising, you've signed up for this. So it's fun and it's tough at the same time. But like, yeah, that's our world.
It's fantastic. And I'm sure lots of our attendees are having the same challenge. So I want to say hello to a few people as well, just so that we can, recognize some of the people. And I can see the numbers are going up, so we still have more people joining us. So Fagbemi Osinuga, Harvard Letsualo, Ethium Jali, Kedleko M, Katrine Grobler, Lorraine Smith, Mark Pedal, Inkululeko Vilakazi. Thank you so much. I mean, there's so many people to actually name, but I just want to name some of the people who've attending. So thank you so much for them. So now, how are you coping in this space? Are you working from home still? Are you back in the office? Are you looking forward to going back to the office?
I'm doing both. So I go into the office for things that need the office, and but for the most part, I work from home. Yeah, but like any chance to go to the office, I take that opportunity. Yeah, I don't know, that's something that works out better in the office. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's one of those interesting things is like creativity is something where without a doubt you can do apart and minds can still work even in a distance. But there's a joy in getting together, isn't there? There's a joy in being able to see your colleagues and see your friends, colleagues who become friends and be able to work together.
Yeah, and like ideas require energy, like we work off each other's energies when you're working with ideas. And I think like my biggest worry with this was thinking about the creative teams and having to brainstorm online where you're not actually sensing the other person, like when you're working with ideas, there's moments where there's an excitement, you haven't cracked the idea yet, but there's like, you can feel your partner's energy and excitement in getting closer to the idea. And that's how like, that this is a hot idea. This I love. You feel it within more than like what happens in your brain. There's another energy that you sense. When you see an idea you love, you feel it first, before it like registered in your brain, So I think that's the part that we're gonna miss the most, particularly for creatives.
I know, and I think we've been chatting to a lot of people who've expressed exactly the same sentiment now. I mean, we've had a lot of amazing chats, and a lot of what you're saying resonates quite a bit because from the discussions that we've had. I see there's questions coming in, so if I can please ask, if you have questions, please use the Q&A function. I'll get to them in a bit because I think one of the things I want to get through a few things. So now I've watched in a few webinars. I know you've been very busy chatting to a lot of people and sharing a lot of these great insights. One of the things I'm keen about, and I think there's a few people also who are keen about, is just to try and understand, how does one get to this point, especially for a lot of the young creatives who are joining us as well? What is your background? How did you find advertising? And, what was it like growing up? Was this a natural progression that you looked at, or is this something that happened? I must know the answer to that, but I feel like you have to ask it. So tell me about your journey in advertising and how you got into it.
Yeah, I think for me, that's like one of the things that I'm grateful for, like every time I'm doing my work and I get a chance to like look back and think, I go like, I'm so lucky to be in this industry because my personality requires this kind of work environment where things are always changing and where you have to wear many hats, where on day you'd find yourself in a studio recording or on set shooting, and then you step out of that, the next day you are in a boardroom presenting, the next day you are problem solving, so those dynamics, I think growing up as a kid, I didn't know that this was the right industry for me, but like I was one of those unfortunate students that always loved lots of things. I always wanted to be lots of things. I couldn't like pin down one thing. I had to force myself to choose one area. And at the time, I think I was in standard. Yes, we were in standard in those days. I think I was standard 9, standard 8. we had an opportunity to go to visit an agency. And at that time when we went, our school visited Head Boys McCann, because one of the EXCO members used to go to my school. So they organized that we go there, and then we went. And then I discovered this new world where there were people who were dressed. You can tell that like whatever you come as you are. And it was an environment that was free, energetic, and people looked that they are working there in offices, but their offices look cool and amazing. So that was my intro first into going, oh, there's a world like this, a work environment that was like this. And you can see I've got dreadlocks. So like my mother was convinced that I would never be able to work anywhere having hair like this. Like hair has always been a continuous struggle in my life. And this is my third pair of dreadlocks. So the fight
my struggle is not having any. It's the opposite struggle.
I think a weave will look amazing on you, Preetesh.
I should try it out. Now that I'm in the creativity space, I'll try it out, maybe.
Yeah. So, but at the time I was convinced that I'm going to be a lawyer. I liked the idea of advertising, but I was like, no, I'm going to be a lawyer, because I enjoyed debating and I enjoyed like going deep into the details of things and making a case for something. And I think that's also, we kind of like make a case for brands in advertising. You have to convince people to buy this product versus another one, So I think I always had that. But while I was in high school, one of my friends was studying advertising. So, and he would tell me about his assignment and ask me to brainstorm with him. And then I would brainstorm with him. And in our brainstorms, I discovered that I love this thing. And I would do the writing and he would do the art direction, and come up with ideas, until one day he came to me and said, this is like later now after high school. I was studying a BCom law at the time, and he came to me and said, one of my lecturers is always asking about you, and he wants to know what you're doing. And then he came with this competition, a print ad on the newspaper with the headline that read, do you think you have what it takes to be in advertising? And then it had a blank page to go write why you think you have what it takes to be in advertising, and send it to this address. And then the lecturer thought I should enter the competition, and then I entered the competition, and I was one of the people that was selected from that. And then we were given tasks to fulfill. Like basically it was like a brief on different products, design a new country's flag, write a radio ad for this car. It's the fastest car the world has ever seen, so write a radio ad, do a billboard for this product, so they gave us challenges like that, and I did the challenges, and I was one of 10 people selected to be on the creative directors program, which was called Abaketwa, which translates the chosen ones. So, and from there we studied at Vega and AAA. So each day will alternate. We'll go to AAA for copy and Vega for art direction. All of us, they didn't care which side you liked. The training involved both of them. And then we were assigned agencies and mentors. And that was my intro to advertising. But there's another part. I think I can go on forever.
Please. Tell me more. I'm fascinated. I love this. Sounds like a fascinating story. Yeah.
Okay. I'll be quick on this one. But before that, I did a part-time job as in market research, where one of my jobs, in fact, you had Wandi here a couple of weeks back. Wandi was one of the people that we worked with in marketing research as a student. And I was, so what I would do is, a recruiter where we'd recruit people for market research to research ads. And I was a translator, transcriber, moderator. And so I got to see campaigns before they happened in research, like a variation of campaigns. And most of the time, the work that we did was around, I was the target audience in a way, you know, and I always thought that, oh my God, I could do this. You know, they're not getting it right like this. Remember always when clients asked about it, so how would you do it? And giving advice, probably back at the agency, people hated it when they got feedback from the client that there's some young guy with dreadlocks saying that you should have done this and that, you know? So, and at that time, then I knew how much I loved this space. And I was glad to be selected for our Keto program.
So the I had some more questions about your career journey, but the advertising thing sparked my interest. I mean, there's always this, I don't want to say love-hate relationship with the research that actually comes from advertising testing. And I'll tell you why, because I came from the brand side. And I remember it was one of those things you had to do. You had to go and test every single thing. And then we'd take it back to the agency, and the agency will be like, nope, they have no idea what they're talking about in those research panels. So what is your thoughts in terms of using research to inform creativity? Is there really value, or do you think it actually hinders the creative process?
No, I think that we probably use the research, I think, incorrectly. Most of the time, we use the research to tell us what to do, not to inform us around territories and mindsets and spaces, you know. So we want to take what research says and put it in the ad. And those ads are always bad because, like, consumers are never going to make the ad for you, you know. They'll always find themselves in a certain space. And I believe that our job is to bring the consumer with us to a certain level, because consumers will always repeat what they have seen before, what they see on TV. They push it forward. So you'll always be repeating what other brands have done, or be in the same space that other brands have done. But our job is to take insights from the research to go, okay, this is how this thing is done and this is how it's viewed. Not to go, it has to be purple, you know. So the answer we're looking for is not the actual color, but are they interested in colors? Is the consumer interested in colors? Do they find them interesting? What, more or less, what colors they like, you know, so, and what does it mean to them? And then you take that and it informs the creative that you come back with. But like we've done the opposite of like wanting to take it as a dictate from the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, even in terms of product design,
I'm a big hater of research, you know, so yeah, because of that particular point, I don't like it. I love it if it informs where I should go and not what I must do. Yeah,
I think one of the just speaking to your point as well, Neo, is that, you know, Steve Jobs famously was not a big fan of research in general, and the reason he wasn't is because he says if people don't know what they want, how can you give them what they don't even know about? And I think that's very interesting. Is that the reason that our topic for today is based along that lines?
Yeah, I think that. And most of the time is, if you look at how consumers behave around their own spaces, they always go for the new thing, the fresh thing, you know, like, we don't, I watch like around what happens with music, and because the artist is quite free to develop how they want to communicate with their audience, you know, and the audience has to follows them, you know. But like in our instances is that I find that the consumers are way ahead of us, and like we always lagging behind as brands. By the time we catch on, that thing has moved into another level, and I think it comes because we want to be told.
Yeah, good point. Neil, just in terms of also better understanding your journey as well. So you brought all of this research thinking and all this knowledge, but also on the other side, all of this advertising knowledge, and you started your first job. So where was your first full-time role, and what was that like, bringing in all this like different amalgamation of knowledge into your first role with traditional creatives?
Yeah, I think that, so as at that time when I started, I already knew a bit about the industry. I knew which agencies were at the top, which agencies were the biggest, which agencies had which clients. And so my biggest worry after being selected was when we were informed that we are going to be appointed to agencies, and my worry was, which agency am I going to go to? And at the time, Hunt Lascaris was number one, and Network was number two.
Yeah.
And Network was clearly in a pole position to take over from Hunt Lascaris. And Network was were the new kids on the block who were doing cooler stuff, and Hunt Lascaris were the tried and tested. They've always been like a highly creative agency and highly admired by most. And for me, my competitive spirit always want to go for something, you know, for the challenge, you know, and I wanted to be at Network. Like I remember saying to some of the guys that won that if you get appointed to Network and I get Hunt Lascaris, because I know that everybody wants Hunt Lascaris, can we swap? You know, and I just said it like it's going like, because these were at the time, those two were actually the ones that everybody wanted, you know. And there was also like another smaller agency at the time was Harrison Human, which was doing fantastic work. And so that would be probably like the third one on the list, you know. And so when when the selection happened, I was appointed to Network, which was like amazing. That because like, and for me, it's like over the years, I've been learning the effect that like, if you put out something out there to the universe, it kind of like the universe responds, you know. And every time I look back at the things that have happened in my life, that is confirmed. And I'm a strong believer in the attitude that you walk into something will determine the outcomes of that thing, you know. And so I was selected and I went to Network, and I was like, that's the best thing that happened to me in advertising, to start at an agency like that. At the time, it was like the creative department was the best of the best. Everybody you looked at was somebody who's done a big campaign, hot campaign that you love, you know, like work that you wished you would have done, you know. So then I was put in this mix. And the biggest change and like a mental choice I had to make at the time as a young black guy in advertising. And there was like, I remember at the time, there were only two of us in the creative department, you know. So I was like the new guy that knew nothing, you know, that just came in, won a competition. And then I looked at everybody around me, these are superstars. So it's like being taken to Real Madrid or Barcelona, you know, or Orlando Pirates. Tell me about it. Anyway. So, I know like Kaizer Chiefs fans will love that. Anyways, it's going to take them a couple of years to get there. Yes. So I decided at the time that I acknowledge the fact that I know nothing, you know, and the people that surround me know more than me. And I told myself that I do have a way I've got something to offer on the table that nobody else in this creative department has. And I channeled myself into going, I'm going to learn everything that I can learn and apply it to the things I believe in. And at the time, I walked in believing that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the way we talk to Black South Africans in advertising. And I had a strong belief in that. And so one of the exercises that I did was like in acknowledging that I know nothing. And like every day I realize like there's like a huge world out there that I don't know and I need to catch up. And I started going to, and at the time, like having internet was a big thing, and we didn't have internet. And working on a Mac, and like at Network, I think it was the first agency to, like for copywriters to work on Macs. Copyright, everyone in creative worked on Macs, and there was like an attitude about that. So I decided that I'm going to live at the agency effectively, you know. So I drove from like home was Pinville in Soweto. So I would leave home at like 5 in the morning so that I can make it to work early around 6 before everybody else. And then I could spend a lot of time on the internet. And that was like, for me, the biggest thing. It's like, I'm going to just like, I love the internet because it can give you just this place where it's free and it gives you information every day, anything. And like that information was also just adding hours into my work at the agency because I knew that I was not as good as everybody else around that table, you know? And so I needed to put in extra hours to catch up to everyone else. So I work, I'm an early riser. Fortunately, I still wake up early till today. And so I would start working at 6. By the time everybody comes in around 8, I've put in hours of like written one script like 10 times, changed it. And it got better every time you change it. And then I'd also leave late because if you leave early work, you're going to be stuck in queues in town and all of that. But if you catch a taxi around 7:30 to 8, there are no longer queues anymore, you know. So that's what I did. I put in the time. And then the other thing I realized, when you go to the office on a Saturday, those stars that you admire, you find them there on the Saturday. And then I was like, wait, look at this. It's not just talent, you know. I realized that it's like the best people put in the time to their craft, you know. And I was like, oh my God, these guys, to compete with them is like, it's going to be seriously tough. And I decided that I'm not going to be the only person who didn't win an award around this table. You know, I'm not going to be that. Because it was like a big deal. I was representing all the Black people in the country to go, I'm not going to be the one that's going to let down everybody, you know. So that thing, actually, it's the thing that drove me, you know, to go like, I've got this opportunity, I've got this one seat, and I need to represent. So I put in the time, and I was fortunate enough to win my first Loeries the very same year. But that was what happens when you have great people around you to drive you and push you to the right channel. And like early on, I learned the skill of winning, you know, and I was addicted to it.
Oh, brilliant. You know, one of the things you're saying there was about wanting to go to the number 2 agency. It reminds me a lot of Avis's campaign. You know, Avis always said, we're number 2. We try harder because we're number 2. Lots of people don't know that's where the We Try Harder campaign actually came from. So it always is like that, right? When you feel like you're number 2, you always work a lot harder. What was the experience like? I mean, when you joined the agency and speaking about Black representation within the agency environment, what was it like? How difficult was it breaking into the agency environment and ensuring that your viewpoints were heard within that environment, especially when you're working with people at that point who are seen as legends within the industry?
Yeah, one of the reasons I say like the best thing that happened was me starting at Network is that the leadership at Network was all about hearing people out. You know, there was no junior that must sit in a corner and shut up. There was no, you haven't won enough awards, what do you know? You know, we were all encouraged to bring forward our ideas. And quickly I learned when we would do some of the brainstorms where you do a brainstorm in a big group, where you're throwing ideas, bouncing off ideas, is that whenever I kept quiet about this idea where I'd like have this burning feeling about wanting to say this thing, but like, because I'm junior and I'm afraid and I'm going like, why are all these people not seeing this gap? You know, it's so obvious. In my head, I'm saying that. And I am not vocalizing it to everyone else. I'm still learning the crowd and the room and the craft. So, and then like 30 minutes down the line, someone else, senior, says exactly what I thought. And everybody goes like, damn, that's hot. That's this, you could do that and that. And then I'd be one of the people that's adding to that thing. But deep down, I'm going like, damn, I missed my chance. And I think that's what happens to most junior people.
Yeah.
You know, like we keep quiet about our ideas, thinking that they're bad. That's why everybody else is not saying that thing. But sometimes is that those are the ideas that I, in my position, need to hear about. You know, it's that idea that sounds crazy enough to you that other people don't see it. You know, and I learned after a couple of times not sharing my ideas. Like, and then I started like, and I remember like one of the mentors told me that, you know, in your position right now, this is a time to have shit ideas, as many shit ideas as you want. Nobody's going to blame you for it. It's fine.
Yeah.
And shit idea you have, you're going to learn from the shit idea, you know? And I started sharing my shit ideas and I did learn. And one of the lessons was that actually they're not that shit after all. You know, it takes another person to flip it a little bit, you know, change a thing. And that's why we have directors. And that's what they do, you know, and the truth, and that's what I'd like to say to like everyone that feels like they're junior out there and they don't know enough. It's like, it's so beautiful to be junior. It's amazing because you can like really be truly yourself. And you are allowed to fail, you know, you're allowed to be wrong, so allowed to be wrong, you know, and there's always a lesson in that.
And do you think right now in the environment we're in right now, do you think most agencies accept that? Do you think somebody's new coming in, are those so-called junior people who are just entering the organization still given the freedom to be able to share their ideas and have those shit ideas so that they can be crafted and molded into something that's amazing?
I think more so now than before. I think now I get shocked that we do give like junior teams like full 360 briefs, big briefs, and we do challenge them and like and I think they come to the table. The ones that really want it, they know what it takes to do great work, you know, and they bring it on. I think the environment allows us because younger people are actually in the forefront of things now in terms of knowledge and know-how. You know, I can't compete with my juniors when it comes to TikTok. You know,
Yeah.
so my son shows me flames in that world. You know, I get shocked all the time about the stuff that he knows that I don't know. And I think it's their time, and the people that stand up and show up are the ones that actually make it. And yeah, and I'd encourage people to, you know, when you go to work and when you're doing your job, like bring yourself, bring, you know, your full self, you know, so never fear being wrong.
I think, you know, it's amazing. Whatever you're saying is resonating with so many people. I mean, Katrine Grobler says, hard work and humility, so much respect, love, love, love this. Stu Jamini says, really amazing journey. David Shweta says, very interesting, insightful. I mean, everyone is just amazed by this journey. And I think as you go through this amazing journey that resonates with so many people, I'm going to read one more from Sabelo. It says, I love your journey, Neo. And I was very privileged to have met you in my journey into the industry when I was interning at Draft FCB. And to actually have worked with you and next to you, big up to you, and the Kazi that raised us, Pumvo. So that's from Sabelo. And maybe going through this as well, you know, as you go through this journey.
Guys, always representing. this country here.
And then you get to a point where you're winning amazing awards. So I think for everyone, everyone's probably seen this, but I'm gonna play a quick ad. It's time for an ad break, don't you think? So I'm gonna play this very quickly for everyone, and you can tell us about this.
Cool.
Is this just how we sell things now? The face paint, neon, burning TVs, oil running guys. This voice I'm doing. Where did you even get your hyena? What? Is there a throne? And these damn smoke bombs. It's all looking the same. There's more than one flavor to South Africa. So get more South African flavor with a half chicken and any single side.
So that's an amazing ad that you did that won a Grand Prix at the Loeries as well. So I was always curious in terms of one, how do you actually convince Nando's to do an ad like that? Especially because Nando's is selling chicken as well. What was that journey like? What was that point of them going, I love this and I really want to be able to take this messaging out there and this resonates with our brand?
I think that when you look at ads that are already produced, you think that this is the ad the client or everybody said, I love this. You know, this resonates with my brand. Let's go do it. Most of the good ads that happen are ads that everybody involved had to wrestle to have them made, basically. You know, like internally at the agency, a wrestle match has to happen. And I think over the years I've learned this, that like nothing great comes easily, you know, like, or anything hot or anything that will shift the dial, you have to fight for. And within client side as well, you'll have two clients saying yes and one saying no. But you have to bring people with you. You have to make your case. And one of our most important jobs is the job of selling, you know, and we think that as creatives, scripts will sell themselves because it's so obvious to us that this is the right thing to do. Therefore, everybody else will see it that way. It's never like that. This ad, there were other 3 scripts put in front of clients.
Wow.
With the internally first at the agency, there was a debate around which ad must be made. And I must say, all 3 ads were good, but this one was the best one. But at the time, there was another script that was almost made before this one. And this also came to our exco, because like we work in a funny way that we're so involved in everything, and we share ideas. Then ideas don't live in one department and stuff. So like at exco, we spoke about this particular story, and I remember I was like clear about it. I was like, there's only one ad to make, and I believe that you must always present one ad, the one you want to make, you know. But also learning people. Sometimes you can present 2 ads. The one that the other one, I call it the one to hate. You know, so some clients want to hate something.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to give them the one to hate, and then they'll love this one. But if you just bring one, they won't love it. But if it was up to me, my agencies should always present one idea, you know, and the job of the ECD is to choose that one idea. You know, the selection of what must go out must happen at the agency. But because people work and function differently, we have to allow everybody. You have clients that like love the process of making work, and you have to allow them to be in, you know. So with this one, the biggest people who fought me were, funny enough, it was, so like I would say junior to mid people in the agency, when they heard about the ad and what the script was about and what is it. So the challenge was around But some of the elements that you talk about in the ad are elements that are bringing stuff that is considered to be black work. And you are now going to make an ad that's saying that that shouldn't happen. You know, that's bad, you know, because like, if you look at it, actually the ad challenges most of the work that like, actually when you're a client and doing that work, you feel like you are doing the right thing. But the ad is, but we can't all be saying it and doing it exactly the same way. Do the right thing, but we have to find fresh ways to do this thing. There's so many ways of doing it, you know. And I had to sell it to them to win them over, to go like, no, we are not saying Afrofuturism is wrong, or doing things that depict Africans like this is wrong. We are saying how it's done. There's also a difference in that, in how it's done. And I remember saying to a strat team that, you know, my biggest problem with this area of work is that it wants to show Africa, but it never wants to identify anyone. So when we speak of culture in these ads, never identify that, oh, those people are the Maasai from Kenya, or those people are Ndebele, you know, or those, it's always like this mixed match of, it's a culture, it's a combination, the people have got a red stripe and a thing. When you ask anyone, who are these people? You can't identify them as anything. And I was like, that's the thing that we have to get rid of. We have to be able to identify specific people, you know, in the communication. If we were gonna go, oh, this is African, we must be able to say it's an African from Morocco or Ethiopia in this community, and this is what they do, so that there is an opportunity to learn around that thing. But like what we do is we have somebody painted with red paint on their face and holding a spear, and you can't identify them. You don't know who they are. And that's the part that convinced everyone to go like, okay, you know. So I think, and like when you don't know that part, you think that it was like, yay, we've got a hot ad, let's go make it. You know, so that was part of the background journey. And we had to go in and edit to resell it and convince one of the clients that this is the right one to do, because the other one, the other ad was the liked one, but this one had the most powerful message.
No, I think that's such a big insight, because that made me actually go, wow, because you're right. I've watched it ad so many times, and you're right. One of the key things is being able to pick out groups and be able to have all of that. I wanna take a few questions. This is from Timberletter MCB, who was on a few weeks ago as well. And she asks, hi, Neo. Always a pleasure listening to you, and you're also amazing. How do you think young creatives can quickly develop the confidence and discipline that you seem to have? Because I'll add on to this. So I've chatted to a few people who've also there's always this perception that new people entering the industry and some of the young creatives don't have the discipline sometimes to be able to make it through. And they want to be on top and want to be a chief creative officer on day one. So speaking to this point, so how do you think young creatives can quickly develop the confidence and discipline that you seem to have?
I think the important thing is, once you've selected a career, right, and you love something, I think it's the commitment. You know, if you've chosen to be an art director, choose to be the best art director there is. Choose that. It's a choice. You can be with other copywriters and other art directors and be in a group of people called creatives or account management or strategists. But the thing that you need to select is to select to be the one that stands out. And how to do that is to commit to your craft. And I find that most the mistake that we make most of the time is that we choose a space and then spend our time loving another space. You know, you choose to be a writer and you spend your time listening to music only. That's what you're doing all the time.
Yeah.
But you chose to be a writer. Maybe you should have been a musician or producer or sound guy or some other thing that has to do with sound. So the time you spend the most should be, and particularly when you're still junior, should be to grow and hone and improve on your craft. You know, that's the time to like take on the learning and like now you've got a job. Now you've got this thing, you're in this space that you said you wanted. You might not be in the best agency there is, but you can be the best person in that agency. And if you want to be somewhere else, talk to those people, you know, engage with them. Like, how do you get there? You know, like push yourself, you know, and probably sometimes you'll realize that actually you made a mistake. You loved this thing, but it's not your thing. You realize that. And sometimes people spend years and years doing the thing they don't love. And for me, it's that's hell. You know, hell is not fire. It's doing things that you don't love. Like you're going out there every day, yeah, but you don't love this thing. And I think that how to reward your love is to put in the time. And confidence comes with getting things right, you know, and to get things right is to practice, you know, so, and practice, put in the time.
That's such a good point, because I know a lot of people say, I'm already in the space. If this is my bread and butter, how can I go and do something else now? And I think the reality is in life is that if you really genuinely love something and you're willing to put the effort and passion into it, you'll rise to the top and you'll tend to find you'll be more successful in that space. But a lot of people are just too scared to go down that. Just a comment from Tumelo Tulo, who, whoops, there's another comment coming in. Neo, we are so thankful of your insights. What a pleasure. Also, another question from Inkanyiso Dladla, who asks, greeting Neo. My question is as follows. How does one capitalize, and I love this question actually, how does one capitalize on their weaknesses as a creative?
Capitalize on their weaknesses.
Yeah, on their weaknesses. So how do you actually use your weaknesses and, you know, capitalize on your weaknesses as a creative? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if like capitalize is the right term, but the option you have, and it's a good thing to know your weaknesses, because once you know them, then you can position yourself, you put forward first your strengths and improve on those weaknesses. And I think that there's so much improvement that you can do on when it comes to your weaknesses, but because they're weaknesses for a reason, you know, and the fact that you already know that, it allows you to position yourself in a position of power, which will be to your strengths. So your weaknesses, it's not that you must neglect them and avoid them. Because you know them, you can improve them. And like, I think that that's effectively on day one where that's what I had to do. I had to go like, my God, I know nothing. You know, that's a big weakness to go like, you know, and understanding, like for me, it was like when I'm hanging out with people, and I'm not like the 2000s where they grew up with white people, mixing with everyone. It was all a great party. For me, the people I started working with was like my first proper engagement with white people. You know, proper engagement where you can go like, I like this guy, you know, I like that person, you know, where you go, I choose this one to be my friend, you know, as opposed to that one with white people. I never had that at that time. The white people were always like distant, you know, and what I had to do when I'm hanging out with people, they'll speak about something on this book, on such and such a book. And I've never heard of this book. So I'll note that down to go like, damn, I have to read this thing to to figure out the story properly. And then that's what I would do. I'd go for that book and read that book to know this thing, to know this space. And I knew that when I'm talking every time, like I would talk about a thing that most people around me don't know anything about it. And the difference is that I would go and read up and learn and arm myself on that stuff. And I think that's part of like dealing with your weakness. And I identified it as, oh, this is a weakness, but I have another strength where what I bring to the table, they could never try to bring to the table, but I can learn this part because I'm willing and it's open for me, you know, to learn. And I think that's how you can capitalize on the weakness. And some of the weaknesses, what seems like a weakness might turn into a strength.
Great. I'm going to try and get through a few more questions. Tumelo Tulo asks, Neo, at a junior level, did you experience imposter syndrome? If so, how did you overcome it? Do you still experience it now that you know what you know? It's coming up a lot. Every single week we speak about imposter syndrome, by the way, Neo. Like there's a lot of people who bring it up almost every single week.
Yeah. I think that I've never felt like that, you know. I've never felt I think probably there is a bit of arrogance in the sense of like I walked in thinking that there's a lot of stuff that is being done, but that's not speaking to the consumer. Therefore, I am here to change that, you know. So I always felt like I deserve to be here. I'm going to be here and I've got a point to prove. And my task was always around representation and changing the narrative, you know. And so in occupying spaces, I always approach it as I have a role here and I have a purpose and I'm going to do this position justice. And it's always tough, you know, like being in places where you are the first, you know, because it almost the automatic feeling is to feel like you don't belong here or you don't deserve to be here. You know, it should be a thing that is like, it's a natural thing or something that sticks in the back of your head. But like for me, I've always been about pushing boundaries, opening doors, and I never like accepted the fact if somebody says to me I don't belong, you know, it's a challenge to me, you know. So and the country
perfect.
And the country as a whole, as Black people, had already challenged us to say, you are stupid. You had to prove yourself that you're not stupid. You're dirty, you're ugly, you're this, you're not good enough. All these things were like, for me, it was like a challenge. It's like, okay, bring it on, you know, and that's how I would approach it.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so sorry to everyone, but we're almost out of time. I'm not breaking up too much. I have no electricity in my area, so the network's a bit shocking. So I hope can you believe it? I think I need to start changing these to 2-hour sessions now because there's so much we need to chat about. But you know, one of the things that you know, as a board member of the Loeries that you are responsible for as well is that, you know, the Loeries entries are free this year, which I think leaves such an opportunity for so many agencies to enter. What do you think is going to be the impact and the legacy of having free entries from the Loeries this year?
I think for me that as a stance is a critical position is for creativity. You know, to go. Matters of creativity are always important, no matter what time and what period we are in. You know, creativity is an answer and it's a solution, and we need to always put it out and celebrate it and use it as a tool to solve our problems. And therefore, not making entry fees an excuse. Because as the Loeries is a non-profit organization, we are interested in creativity in the country, in the continent, and in the world, and not so much in making money. And I always laugh, people think that the Loeries has money.
we know the real.
They go like,
Yeah.
you sit on the board of the Loeries, you know, it's a labor of love. No money here. I think it also opened opportunities for new people who have ideas and work that they would like to be actually tested out in the awards and in the judging, that now they can test out their work without having the fee as an issue. And also, I think what I find interesting is, like, every time I look on social media, there are people that I'd like to go like, you should enter this in the Loeries. You know, like, who are people who are not traditional advertising people, but they have like concepts that are hot, that communicate a brand, and they are communicating to a consumer. They have all the right boxes. And it's just that they don't know that they can enter. You know, so I inboxed someone this morning on Instagram who runs a page where I think it's amazing. It's an amazing concept that I think should be entered into the Loeries. I think that's what the free entries open up the opportunity for us.
Fantastic. Now, I can't believe how time has run away. It's already 2:00. So I want to thank you personally, not just for today and for allowing me to twist your arm to come on today, but for all the guidance, all the support, and always being there to support everything that we're doing and giving off your time. So thank you so much. Really appreciate all of that. If you do want to follow Neo, on LinkedIn, Neo Mashigo, you can follow him, and on Instagram at Royal Mashigo. This talk is going to be available on YouTube in a few days, so look out for it if anyone's missed it. Maybe just in parting now, there's a lot of challenges around COVID-19, and we've got people still on from across Africa and the Middle East. Any words of support to everyone's here, and any words in terms of how we come out of this and what they should be thinking about right now?
I think we shouldn't stop. You know, the most dangerous thing for us to do is to stop. And, you know, one of the things that comes with fear is paralysis. You know, fear paralyzes. It makes you stop. And fear has never brought anything positive for anyone, you know. So our job is to behave like we are alive, like we are. We are still alive. Yeah. What we are doing is fighting a pandemic. And how do we fight it as people? Is to fight for the things that we love, and do what we have to do to come out of this as winners. And I think, fortunately, with COVID-19, we now know a lot about it, and we understand a lot about it, that we can take necessary measures to protect ourselves and our loved ones, but also keep on moving. I said to our different group of companies on one of these chats, I said to them that we must never see ourselves as people who are just making ads. Effectively, during this time, we are working towards a bigger cause than just like making ads. We are the guardians of the economy. We are propelling the economy. We are keeping jobs. We are keeping the lights on for everyone. And that's how we come to work. We come to work when you have to work under tough conditions on the laptop, on a Zoom call. Your task is like that nurse that's in the ICU that has to face the pandemic directly. How you are facing how you can thank them for that is to do your job the best way you can during this time, and to give it your all, and know that you chose this industry, and this is what is happening right now, and this is what the industry requires from you, and it's us from you. And effectively, we are doing it for the rest of the world. It's not just about you alone, it's about the next coming generations. We have to come out the other side, standing, dancing, celebrating.
Agree. Now, thank you so much for all that inspiration. And I think that's perfect words to end with as well. So thank you so much for all the support you've shown me. Thank you for all the inspiration you've given to myself and to so many people who've joined today as well. Really appreciate your time and looking forward to maybe doing a follow-up to this at some point as well.
Cool, cool. Yeah, there's a lot of stories around this thing. Cool.
Looking
Cheers,
forward to
you,
it. All the best, Neo. Thank you so much once again.
Cheers, bye.
And thank you to everyone who joined as well. All the best and look out for this again in a few days. Take care, Neo. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.